I'm not really sure where else to turn for a fair opinion, so I figured I'd post here. My name's Alex, I'm 18, and I just graduated high school. The people involved in this mess are my mom, let's call her Carol, she's in her 40s, and my older half-brother Leo, who's 22. My dad passed away suddenly 5 years ago when I was 13. He and my mom were married, and while Leo isn't his biological son, my dad did legally adopt him when Leo was still a kid. They never had a super close relationship, though. My dad was the kind of guy who planned for everything. Before he died, he set up a $500,000 trust fund meant for both Leo and me. Carol was put in charge of it as the trustee, and the idea was that the money would help us with college and starting out in life. But I recently found out that plan might have completely fallen apart, at least for me. I'm supposed to start college this fall to study engineering. I earned a partial scholarship that covers tuition, but I'm still responsible for books, housing, and all the other stuff that adds up fast. Ever since Dad died, it's been painfully obvious that Carol favors Leo. And I don't just mean little things. If Leo wanted something, he got it, no questions asked. If I needed anything, it always turned into a whole discussion: could we afford it, did I really need it, and so on. Leo's always been the golden child. Honestly, he's never had much direction. After high school, he jumped into college saying he was going to be a doctor. Carol was thrilled and paid for all his pre-med courses. A year in, he decided medicine was too intense and suddenly wanted to be an architect. That led to more tuition, a bunch of supplies, and a top-tier laptop. That phase lasted about a year and a half. Then he switched again, this time to video game design. And of course, Carol jumped right back in with full support. She paid for new classes, new equipment, and transferred him to a private arts college that specializes in gaming. It was crazy expensive. Every time he switched majors, they lost credits, paid new application fees, and threw more money at the next stream. I tried to bring it up a few times over the years, especially when I'd see Leo with brand new tech or going on inspiration trips with his friends while I was saving pocket change for school supplies. Carol always told me Leo just needed more help than I did. She'd say things like, "Your dad would have wanted Leo to find his passion." And when I asked about the trust fund, even just to understand how it worked, she'd shut me down fast. It was always, "Don't worry, it's being handled," or "You don't need to concern yourself with that." But I had this gut feeling something was off. Especially watching how Leo lived, driving a newer car, always with the latest phone, no job, no stress. I kept wondering how he was affording all of it. A couple of weeks after graduation, I finally sat down with Carol and asked her straight up about the trust. I came prepared. I had all my scholarship info, a realistic budget for books, rent, and food. I wasn't asking for the whole thing, just my half. I figured I'd use a little for my first year and save or invest the rest. That's when she hit me with the truth. She looked uneasy, kept fidgeting, and then said, "Alex, about the trust. There really isn't anything left." I just sat there, completely stunned. I asked her what she meant, and she explained pretty calmly at first that Leo's education ended up costing way more than she expected. She listed out all his degree switches, his game design courses, living expenses from 2 different campus moves, the gear he needed. Apparently all of that burned through the entire trust. The whole $500,000. Gone. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I asked how my half had vanished. She said it was a joint fund and that, as the trustee, she had to make judgment calls about what was best. According to her, Leo needed that support, and she honestly believed that helping him find his path, whatever it turned out to be, was what my dad would have wanted. She truly believed spending every last cent of the fund on Leo's endless restarts was a fair decision. At first, I didn't even yell. I was too in shock. I asked her if she understood that legally, half of that money was mine. That's when she got defensive. She said I was being unreasonable and unsupportive of Leo. She pointed out that since I had a scholarship, I didn't need the money like Leo did. I tried to explain that my scholarship only covered tuition and that the trust was part of what my dad left for me, not just some random gift. But she said I was overreacting and accused me of being jealous. Eventually, I lost it. I called it what it was: she had stolen my inheritance. She took what my father left for my future and gave it all to Leo. Leo was home at the time and heard the whole thing. He stormed in, furious, and immediately sided with Carol. He called me selfish, said his career was important, and that one day when he made it big in the game industry, he'd pay me back. He even said I should be grateful I was smart enough to get a scholarship and stop whining. Then Carol started crying. She said she did what she thought was best. And then she pulled out the ultimate guilt trip. She said if I tried to sue her to get my share back, it would destroy her. She might even have to sell the house. The house she and my dad bought together. The house I grew up in. She said legal action could put it all at risk. That was her big play: emotional blackmail. I packed a bag and left. I've been staying with a friend ever since. The first few days were a blur, I couldn't think straight. I felt betrayed in a way I can't even describe. So I started researching, reading up on trust law, fiduciary duty, inheritance rights, and everything I saw confirmed what I already suspected: she violated every obligation she had as a trustee. It's been about 3 weeks since that night, and the situation at home is unbearable. I've only been back a couple of times to grab more of my stuff. Each time, Carol either breaks down crying or tries to guilt-trip me. Leo acts like I'm the villain. I haven't made any official moves yet, but I've realized I can't just let this go. It's not only about the money, it's about how little they care about my future, about what my dad actually wanted for me. Carol keeps flip-flopping between tearful apologies that never include her admitting any fault, and angry rants about how I'm tearing the family apart. She's been calling around to extended family, telling them I'm greedy and ungrateful. Now I've got relatives calling me, saying I should forgive her and not ruin the family over money, especially since I already have a scholarship. Leo, of course, keeps running his mouth, telling everyone I'm jealous because he got to chase his dreams. The only card my mom keeps playing is the house. She keeps saying if I sue, she'll lose it, and then we'll all be out on the street even though I'm not even living there anymore. I don't know if that's true. Maybe she mismanaged other money, and the trust fund was just one piece of a much bigger mess. Or maybe she's just saying all this to scare me into silence. All I know is, I feel completely trapped. My father tried to take care of me, and she threw all of that away on Leo's endless experiments, with zero regard for me. So now I'm stuck wondering, if I consult a lawyer and go after my rightful share even if it means she might have to sell the house, does that really make me greedy or ungrateful? Am I overreacting, or am I just trying to claim what my father clearly intended for me, especially when my scholarship doesn't even cover all my expenses? Update 1. First off, thank you to everyone who responded to my original post. I've gotten a ton of messages, and the overwhelming advice has been clear: I need to speak to a lawyer. Some of you asked for more information, especially about the trust. So here's what I know. My dad's will stated that the $500,000 should be placed in a trust with Carol as the only trustee. It specifically said the money was to be used for our education and maintenance. The trust was set up to benefit both Leo and me, his 2 kids, and it specifically said the money should be used for our education, living costs, and overall well-being, to be divided substantially equally as we came of age or needed it for big educational expenses. There wasn't some hard rule like you get your share at 25. Instead, it left room for the trustee, my mom, to use discretion as long as the spending was for valid reasons and benefited us both. That substantially equally part is the foundation of my entire case. Carol was supposed to look out for both of our futures, not just fund Leo's wild ride through life. A lot of people asked about the costs of Leo's education, so here's a breakdown of what I know. For his pre-med year, he went to a regular university. There were tuition fees, books, lab costs, but at least he still lived at home. That didn't last long. After a year, he switched gears and went into architecture, which meant transferring to a different university with a more prestigious program. Tuition went up, and now he needed specialized supplies, architecture software, and a new place to live. He started off in a dorm, then moved into an apartment close to campus. That's when the expenses really started to snowball. Then came the game design chapter. He's been in that program for about 2.5 years now, maybe more, and it's at a private arts college that's notoriously pricey. Add to that a high-end computer, a full VR setup, tons of software subscriptions, and another apartment that he claimed gave him creative inspiration. And on top of all that, Carol even paid for multiple networking trips so he could attend gaming expos and conventions. I did some conservative estimating based on the tuition for that arts college, and it's pretty safe to say that just the architecture and game design phases alone probably cost over $200,000 each, maybe more when you factor in all the extras. That doesn't even include his first pre-med year. Bottom line? Carol never told him no. Not once. And for context, Carol isn't rich. She works a decent administrative job, mid-level, nothing flashy. It pays okay, but definitely not enough to cover Leo's lifestyle, the mortgage on the house, and save at the same time. Dad had paid down a big chunk of the house before he passed, but it was obvious he'd always been the one handling long-term financial planning. As for how Carol was able to drain the entire trust without anyone stopping her, that's something I'm still digging into. But since she was the sole trustee, she likely had broad authority to manage the fund however she saw fit, without regular oversight. That freedom comes with serious responsibility, and she abused it. Reading all the comments and especially the ones telling me to treat this like a legal matter, not just a family issue, really helped me stay focused. The whole "you have a scholarship" excuse Carol keeps throwing at me is nothing but a guilt tactic. My dad left that money for me regardless of what scholarships I might earn. Her job as trustee wasn't to decide who deserved the money more. It was to manage it fairly and responsibly for both of us. Spending the entire thing on Leo, especially for what turned into a string of half-baked dreams, wasn't just unfair. It was a complete betrayal of what Dad wanted. The more I thought about it, the more outrageous it felt. My father's life savings, his entire legacy, was basically blown on Leo's whims, and I was just supposed to be grateful that I got a scholarship? So, I followed the advice I was given and found a lawyer, someone who specializes in estate and trust litigation. A lot of people wondered how I could afford that, being a broke college-bound teen. Well, luckily, the lawyer offered a free initial consultation. After going through the will and all the details of the trust, he told me I had a very solid case. He agreed to take me on with a contingency fee arrangement. That means he only gets paid a percentage if we win. If we don't, I don't owe him for his time, just basic costs like filing fees, which he said we could handle as they come or potentially defer. It was the only realistic path forward, so I took it. The first legal step was to send a formal demand letter to Carol. My lawyer wrote it out, clearly outlining her duties as trustee, how she violated those duties, and formally demanded a complete accounting of the trust and the immediate restoration of my share, $250,000, within 30 days. The letter also made it clear that if she didn't comply, we would move forward with a lawsuit to recover the funds, plus seek damages and legal fees. We sent it by registered mail so there'd be no way she could say she didn't receive it. She got the letter 3 days ago, and her reaction was just as dramatic as I expected, if not more. That night, she called me. She was hysterical, not just crying, but screaming. She called me names: a viper, ungrateful, heartless. Said I was trying to destroy her life and make her homeless. Then Leo got on the line and took it up a notch. He yelled that I was a greedy bastard and said my legal action was going to ruin his future because Carol couldn't support him anymore. He actually told me that he was destined to be a millionaire game designer and would have spat on my $250,000, but now I'd messed everything up. He ended the call with a threat. He didn't say exactly what, but the tone was hostile. His final words were that I was dead to him. The next day, I got a call from my mom's sister, my aunt. Clearly Carol had called her crying, because my aunt was trying the soft approach. She told me Carol was a wreck and asked me to have some compassion and drop the legal action. When I told her Carol had spent my inheritance, her response was, "I'm sure she didn't mean to. She probably just got overwhelmed." Leo can be really persuasive. No accountability. Just excuses. So that's where things stand now. The letter is out. The lines are drawn. There's no turning back. My lawyer told me to keep records of every single interaction moving forward: calls, messages, emails. All of it. Update 2. It's been about 4 months since my last update and a little over 4.5 months since I found out what happened to the trust and sent that demand letter. Fall semester has started. I'm now juggling a full load of engineering classes while this legal mess drags on. Progress is happening, but it's slow and just as miserable as you'd expect. Carol never responded to the letter the way she was supposed to. She didn't provide any accounting. She didn't return a cent of the money. The only thing she did was hire a lawyer, who responded by denying everything. They claimed she acted in good faith and did what she thought was best for both beneficiaries. Which is a joke. She spent the entire fund on one of us. So now my lawyer has filed a petition in probate court. We're asking the court to force Carol to provide an accounting and to hold her personally responsible for the money she misused. We've entered the discovery phase, which means we're officially requesting financial documents, bank records, receipts, anything related to the trust. Carol is fighting us at every single step. Her lawyer is playing games, missing deadlines, giving us half-complete documents, objecting to almost every request we make. It's exhausting, but my lawyer warned me this is typical behavior when someone knows they've done something wrong. Leo, meanwhile, has completely lost it. Now that Carol's funds have dried up, he's had to make some changes. According to mutual contacts, I'm not speaking to anyone who sides with them directly, he had to move out of his expensive apartment near the arts college. He's apparently living back at home. Sounds like he either dropped out or is flunking his game design program now that he can't afford the fees or the tools. And he blames me for all of it. He's been posting nonstop on social media, calling me a thief, saying I ruined his future, accusing me of destroying everything. His posts are full of typos, rants, and pure rage. He even posted a photo of my dad with a caption that said, "Dad would be ashamed of you." That one hit hard. But my lawyer told me not to respond to anything, just document it. Financially, I'm hanging in there, but just barely. My scholarship covers tuition, but not living expenses, food, or books. I picked up a part-time job working in the campus library, about 15 hours a week. It helps, but I'm constantly aware that I wouldn't be in this situation if Carol had done what she was supposed to do. The security my dad wanted for me gone. And then, the most shocking development happened last month. Carol, through her lawyer, proposed a settlement. She offered me $10,000. Total. Paid out in installments. Over 2 years. Carol claimed that $10,000 was all she could manage and that I should see it as some kind of gesture of goodwill. Honestly, my lawyer and I were stunned, then insulted. We turned it down immediately. It felt like a cheap, desperate attempt to shut everything down before things got worse for her. Especially considering we had just handed over some pretty damning bank records to her attorney. Right after that, Leo escalated things. One night, I was coming back from a late-night study session when I spotted him standing near the entrance of my apartment building. He looked like a complete mess, angry, disheveled, and absolutely unhinged. As soon as he saw me, he started yelling, calling me all sorts of names, accusing me of destroying his life, telling me I was going to pay for what I'd done. He got right in my face. And for a second, I genuinely thought he was going to hit me. His fists were clenched, his whole body tense, and he was so close I could feel the spit flying off his words. Luckily, one of my neighbors happened to walk out just then. They saw what was happening and immediately told Leo to back off. That snapped him out of it enough to curse a few more times before storming off. I was shaken. I filed a police report the next morning, gave them Leo's name and a full rundown of what happened. They took it seriously but said there wasn't much they could do unless he actually assaulted me. From that point on, I started being a lot more careful about my surroundings. My lawyer sent Carol's lawyer a warning letter right after the incident, making it clear that any more harassment, especially from Leo, would lead to us pursuing a restraining order. Meanwhile, Carol's approach shifted into full-on victim mode. She started telling relatives that I was dragging her through an expensive, stressful legal battle, and that I was being cruel for not accepting her apology, though, just to be clear, she never actually apologized for spending the trust or making that insulting offer. The extended family became divided. My dad's side, who I've grown closer to throughout all of this, were furious on my behalf and offered nothing but support. Most of my mom's side either took her side or tried to stay out of it completely. The fight definitely wasn't over. My lawyer began drafting a motion to force Carol to hand over a full, detailed accounting of every dollar from the trust. We were also asking the court to hit her with sanctions for failing to comply earlier. Every single step felt like a battle. Update 3. 8 months later, so about a full year since I first posted asking if I was wrong for suing my own mom, the legal situation hit a major turning point. By this time, I'd finished my first year of university, and I was completely exhausted, mentally and emotionally. School was already demanding, but fighting this case on top of it? It pushed me to my limits. After endless delays and roadblocks, we finally got our day in court. We had a hearing on our motion to compel a full accounting of the trust and to sanction Carol for refusing to cooperate. The judge was not impressed with her excuses. He ordered her to turn over all the requested financial documents within 15 days. When the documents came in, they were a disaster. Disorganized, sloppy, and full of holes. But even with what little we got, the truth was obvious. This wasn't just poor judgment. It was blatant abuse of the trust. There were transactions showing the trust was used for way more than tuition and school supplies. Carol had used trust money to redecorate Leo's bedroom, pay off his credit card balances, which were loaded with personal, non-essential charges, and, unbelievably, to put a down payment on a car for him. Altogether, over $400,000 was spent directly on or for Leo. The remaining money? It was gone. Most likely funneled into general household spending, which she absolutely wasn't allowed to do with trust funds. There was no legitimate justification for any of it. After this, Carol's lawyer tried again to settle. This time, she offered $50,000, saying she'd have to take out a second mortgage to make it happen. But with how strong our case was by that point, my lawyer said we should push for the full $250,000 plus interest and legal costs. So we countered with $275,000. They said no. Trial was scheduled for late fall. And yes, Carol's house was now officially at risk. It was basically her only asset. Her financials were so limited that the house became the only way to recover anything close to what she owed. Her legal team started to shift their argument toward, she just didn't understand how complicated being a trustee was. My lawyer laughed that off. Ignorance doesn't excuse misusing trust money. Leo, meanwhile, continued his downward spiral. He wasn't enrolled in school anymore. He had no job. And from what little I heard, he was back living with Carol, probably making her life miserable, though I can't say I feel sorry for her. He kept venting on social media, posting angry rants and calling me a traitor. But people stopped reacting. No one was paying attention anymore. Except, a couple months ago, things took another disturbing turn. I came home one afternoon and saw that someone had vandalized my apartment door. In huge, red spray-painted letters, it read, "Money-grubbing thief." There was also a long scratch running down the side of my car parked out front. There were no security cameras in the hallway. No witnesses. But I knew it was Leo. The phrase matched his online posts word for word. I reported it to the police again. This time, they took it more seriously, probably because of the previous incident, but without proof, they still couldn't take direct action. I had to pay out of pocket to repaint the door, and the scratch on my car is still there. It left me feeling unsafe in my own home. Then came Carol's biggest meltdown yet. After the trial date was announced, she somehow got my university email, probably from an old contact list, and sent me a long, nasty email. It was several pages of emotional manipulation. She accused me of being a monster, of destroying her life, of spitting on my father's legacy. She claimed her health was failing from the stress I was putting her through. She listed off all the sacrifices she'd made for me, most of which were just basic parenting, and painted herself as a saint. Nowhere in that email did she admit any wrongdoing. Not once. She closed it by saying that if she lost the house, it would haunt me forever, and that she would never, ever forgive me. Then, about 3 weeks ago, Leo went completely off the rails. Carol called me out of the blue. For the first time, she sounded genuinely scared. Apparently, after another argument, most likely about money or his hopeless future, Leo had a breakdown. He cut his own arm with a kitchen knife. Not life-threatening, but bad enough that he needed stitches. According to Carol, he told her it was my fault. That I'd destroyed his future, driven him to this. Carol didn't outright blame me on the call, but it was obvious she was hoping I'd feel guilty. She asked if I'd consider backing off to help Leo get back on track. He was taken to the hospital and placed under a mandatory psychiatric hold for 72 hours. My lawyer found out because Carol's lawyer tried to use the incident to postpone the trial, claiming that Carol was emotionally unfit to proceed. The judge denied the motion. The betrayal has become complete and layered. It's not just about the money anymore. It's the lies. The guilt trips. The way Leo's dangerous behavior is being excused and enabled. And now they're trying to use his breakdown as leverage in court. The trial is set. My lawyer is prepping. I'm getting ready to testify. There's no going back. Whatever relationship I had with Carol and Leo is gone. Now it's just about getting justice and recovering what my father intended for me. Final update. It's been another year and a half. That makes 2.5 years since this nightmare started, when I first asked Carol what happened to my inheritance. I'm now midway through my 3rd year of university. The trial happened last November. It lasted 3 days. Carol's defense in court was as weak as it had been on paper. She tried to play the overwhelmed widow card, claiming she just didn't understand her responsibilities as trustee. But when my lawyer laid out the trust's clear terms, plus bank statements, emails, and all the financial records, none of it held water. Carol broke down crying on the stand. Leo wasn't even called to testify, likely because her attorney knew he'd make everything worse. I had to take the stand. I spoke about my dad, what he intended for Leo and me. I talked about the day Carol admitted the money was gone, and how everything spiraled from there. I stayed calm and stuck to the facts. Carol's lawyer kept trying to frame me as greedy and vindictive. He brought up my scholarship like it somehow canceled out my rights. But my lawyer shut that down quickly. A scholarship doesn't erase Carol's legal obligations or the fact that she broke them. The judge took about 6 weeks to deliver his ruling. I won. The judgment was in my favor for the full $250,000, plus interest. Total payout, just over $280,000. But collecting the money was another struggle. Carol didn't have it. As expected, her only major asset was the house. She refused to sell it at first, so we had to start enforcement proceedings and place a lien. She tried everything, applying for loans, asking family for help, but no one could or would front that kind of money. Leo, from what I heard, was furious, not because Carol was losing the house, but because it meant the easy ride was finally over. Eventually, the house was sold under pressure. After the mortgage was paid off and legal fees taken out, there was enough left to cover about $220,000. So I didn't get the full amount, but I got most of it. My lawyer said we could go after Carol for the rest, around $60,000, but with her income and lack of assets, it would cost more to chase than it was worth. I decided to walk away with what I had. So that's it. That's the end. I recovered a large chunk of what my dad meant for me to have, but it came at a massive emotional cost. Everything between me, Carol, and Leo is scorched earth now. To those of you who gave me advice and encouragement in the beginning, thank you. You helped me take that first step when I was terrified and unsure. This is my final update. There's nothing more to say about Carol or Leo. They made their choices, and I made mine. Now, I'm moving on with my life, the one my dad wanted me to build.